This man had just entered prison and immediately became the target of every dark force inside. He was originally a strong former soldier but ended up behind bars because of a tragic punch thrown in defense of his fiancée. On the very first day, the prison guards brazenly beat him severely, trying to force him to commit a violation. But their cruelty didn't stop there, as they also resorted to disgusting methods, forcing the woman he loved to strip naked right in front of the guards just to visit him. This humiliating tactic was intended to provoke his anger and make him lose control so they could prolong his sentence. Yet these villains didn't anticipate that this vile act would awaken the ferocious beast lying dormant within him. A fierce and bloody revenge inside the prison had now officially begun. This woman wanted desperately to see her fiancé in prison, so she reluctantly agreed to strip down completely for inspection right in front of a prison guard. Yet nobody imagined these heartless guards secretly took photos of her. They then took the photos to her fiancé, intending to enrage him into losing control and committing offenses. The purpose was to extend his prison term. Such methods were truly despicable. But to fully understand why these guards stooped so low, we must rewind back to several days earlier. The main character of this story is a man named Jack, a retired Special Forces soldier. He has a beautiful fiancée named Mary, who had been with him for many happy years. One day, under bright sunny skies, Jack pulled out a ring and officially proposed to Mary. She had waited for this moment for a long time and was so moved she couldn't speak. But no one could foresee that at this very moment someone would come along to ruin things. It was a spoiled, rich young man, arrogant and unruly. Upon seeing the beautiful Mary, he approached her with flirtatious words, completely ignoring Jack's presence. Mary didn't want trouble, so she pulled Jack to their car to leave. But this young man wasn't done yet. Not only did he continue insulting Mary, but he also ran to their car and openly urinated on it. Jack saw this scene and couldn't bear it any longer, so he immediately threw a punch. The rich young man was stunned and dizzy from the blow. Realizing he had encountered a tough opponent, he quickly pulled out a knife intending to finish Jack off. But with sharp reflexes, Jack dodged the fatal stab. He then swiftly turned around and yanked the young man, causing him to crash headfirst into the car. Shockingly, this single collision was enough to kill the young man instantly. He was unbelievably fragile. Even though this clearly was an act of self-defense, Jack was still sentenced to 18 months in prison. From that point forward, Jack and Mary had to endure separation once more. After learning of his son's death, the father of the wealthy young man didn't bother investigating who was truly at fault. He immediately used money to bribe the prison warden, demanding special treatment for Jack. He also insisted Jack remain imprisoned indefinitely. The warden quickly understood the implication and happily accepted the bribe. From the very first day Jack entered the prison, he encountered trouble. The prison's deputy director, Lee Koa, deliberately made things difficult for him. Jack was brutally beaten, then thrown into a damp and dark cell. At this point, Jack simply wished to peacefully serve out his 18-month sentence. So despite facing unfair treatment, he chose to remain patient. But Jack did not know that Lee Koa was the warden's loyal henchman, carrying direct orders from above to specially torture and torment him. One day, while outside in the prison yard, Jack encountered a muscular inmate. This inmate intentionally provoked Jack, hoping to trigger him into a fight. Jack, however, refused to fall into the trap. He continuously dodged every attack and steadfastly avoided fighting back. This scene caught the attention of a prison boss known as An Rao, who was observing from afar. Recognizing Jack's impressive combat skills, An Rao immediately stepped in and advised the muscular inmate to back off. Afterward, An Rao invited Jack to join his gang, but Jack bluntly refused. An Rao warned Jack that survival in this environment required joining gangs for protection, otherwise life would certainly become miserable. Jack, however, remained unfazed. He strongly believed he wanted nothing to do with trouble, only aiming to peacefully complete his 18-month prison term. As time passed, Lee Koa began implementing his plan to provoke Jack. First, he used his authority to suddenly inspect Jack's prison cell. While searching, he discovered a photo of Mary. Lee Koa shamelessly picked up the photo and openly insulted it. Immediately after that, he deliberately tore it into pieces in front of everyone. Witnessing this scene, Jack instantly lost his temper. However, he was quickly subdued by the guards. Right when Jack was at the peak of his rage, Lee Koa unexpectedly ordered his men to uncuff Jack. This strange action made Jack realize Lee Koa was intentionally forcing him to commit an offense. Fully aware of Lee Koa's scheme, Jack suppressed his fury and refrained from fighting back. Seeing his plan fail, Lee Koa immediately switched tactics, joining his trusted subordinates to physically assault Jack. At the most intense moment, a young guard named Tu Bak could no longer bear to watch and stepped in to stop Lee Koa. Only then did the attackers finally cease their violence. Before one storm ended, another quickly arose. Being new Jack became a target while taking a shower, attracting the unwanted attention of an inmate nicknamed Dai Trong. This prisoner planned to humiliate Jack. As a strong man, Jack naturally couldn't tolerate such humiliation. He quickly fought back, taking down Dai Trong with only a few moves. But suddenly Lee Koa appeared, knocking Jack unconscious and dragging him before the prison warden. At this moment, Jack understood clearly Dai Trong had been deliberately planted by the warden. The warden advised Jack to accept reality, emphasizing that he alone held absolute power over life and death in this place. Finishing his words, he signaled Lee Koa to punish Jack severely. At this critical moment, Tu Bok once again appeared just in time to speak up for Jack. After those troubling events, Jack was assigned to work in the prison library. It was here he met a friendly and kind inmate named David. The two quickly bonded and gradually developed a strong friendship. Besides David, Jack gained another friend in prison named Teo Hak, who entered prison at the same time as him. Teo Hak had a timid and vulnerable personality, often becoming the target of bullying from other inmates. Jack couldn't bear seeing this, so he stepped in to protect Teo Hak. Because of this righteous act, Jack quickly became a target himself, drawing hostility from the prison's ruthless inmates. One day, while Jack was cleaning the restroom, a prisoner suddenly attacked him from behind. Without hesitation, Jack countered instantly, taking down the attacker within moments. Right at this time, the prison warden appeared leading a group of guards. He first ordered the fallen inmate out, then without bothering to listen to Jack's explanation, immediately commanded his guards to brutally assault Jack. They mercilessly beat and humiliated Jack with batons, finally pushing his head into the toilet, repeatedly tormenting him. Tu Bok watched helplessly nearby, desperately wanting to help, but was too powerless to intervene. After continuously enduring both physical and mental torment, Jack began feeling his resolve crumble. But every time he wanted to give up, Mary's image appeared in his mind. This helped Jack regain his strength and persevere through these dark days. Yet a new crisis soon erupted. Lee Koa, angered by Tu Bok continuously interfering with his plans, murdered Tu Bok and framed a janitorial inmate for the crime. The innocent inmate had no choice but to accept blame for a crime he didn't commit. One day, An Rao again approached Jack, attempting to convince him to join his gang. Jack remained stubborn, firmly refusing to cooperate. This attitude greatly angered An Rao. As a powerful figure within the prison, An Rao couldn't tolerate Jack's repeated defiance. Without hesitation, he ordered his men to restrain Jack and immediately beat him on the spot. At the same time, the prison warden met with Lee Koa. The warden was furious, seeing Jack had already served more than half his sentence, yet their plan still hadn't succeeded. He directly commanded Lee Koa to use stronger measures if necessary to deal with Jack. Not long afterward, the prison received Mary's request for a visit. Lee Koa decided to seize this opportunity to strike. On the day Mary visited, she was brought into an entirely enclosed room. There, Lee Koa forced Mary to remove all her clothing for a physical inspection. Mary strongly objected at first, but Lee Koa used this as an excuse to deny her visit with Jack. Mary had waited over 2 months to see Jack again and didn't want to lose this precious opportunity. Therefore, she endured the humiliation, reluctantly stripping naked in front of Lee Koa. Only afterward was she allowed to visit Jack. However, Mary didn't know that during the inspection, Lee Koa secretly photographed her in this vulnerable state. These photos quickly reached Jack. Seeing these images, Jack immediately exploded in rage, losing all control. From behind bars, he loudly berated Mary and Lee Koa. Later, when Jack faced Mary directly, his expression was extremely cold. Jack misunderstood, believing Mary had willingly done shameful acts to curry favor with the guards. Mary felt deeply hurt and heartbroken. Crying, she explained the entire truth, insisting she had only reluctantly complied to meet Jack. Realizing his mistake, Jack immediately apologized. Seeing Jack's sincerity, Mary forgave him quickly, and the two reconciled as before. Meanwhile, Dai Trong, the inmate who previously targeted Jack, still hadn't abandoned his evil intentions. Unable to harm Jack directly, he turned his attention toward Teo Hak. Dai Trong forced Teo Hak into the kitchen storage room and humiliated him. Unable to endure such degradation, Teo Hak decided to seek An Rao's protection by joining his gang. An Rao handed Teo Hak a knife, advising him to prove his manhood. Just then, Jack witnessed this exchange and immediately intervened, trying to dissuade Teo Hak from acting recklessly. However, Teo Hak had already lost all reason, driven solely by revenge and the desire to reclaim his dignity. So, when Dai Trong prepared to abuse him again, Teo Hak stabbed him to death. This incident complicated matters further. Seeing that his plan using Mary to provoke Jack had failed, Lee Koa decided to bribe An Rao to eliminate Jack once and for all. Soon after, Jack was led to an isolated warehouse. There he encountered An Rao, who instantly began insulting Mary. This caused Jack to lose control completely, as Jack prepared to attack Lee Koa and his subordinates, suddenly grabbed him, holding him down on a table and preparing to permanently cripple his hands with a hammer. But these villains underestimated Jack's strength and agility. At the exact moment the hammer was about to strike, Jack fought back, overpowering Lee Koa and his men. Nevertheless, Jack was subsequently charged with assaulting prison guards and thrown into solitary confinement. In this isolated dark cell, Jack had no one to speak to and lived in constant cold darkness. Worse yet, Lee Koa frequently tortured and abused him. Gradually, Jack's mental health deteriorated, causing him to hallucinate and fall into severe depression. After what seemed like an eternity, the horrific solitary confinement finally ended. Jack emerged broken in body and spirit. A new prison guard brought Jack out and immediately recognized the injustice he had suffered. The guard gently urged Jack to reveal the truth. But by now, Jack had lost faith entirely and no longer trusted anyone. Afterward, Jack was taken outside to enjoy a rare moment of sunlight. At that moment, Tew Hack suddenly appeared before him, holding a knife. It turned out An Rao had assigned Tew Hack the task of killing Jack. But seeing the friend who had once wholeheartedly protected him, Tew Hack couldn't bring himself to do it. Witnessing this, An Rao became deeply disappointed. To avoid future complications, An Rao personally murdered Tew Hack that same night to silence him forever. This prison truly was a living hell where lives were taken so casually. When Jack learned of Tew Hack's death, he was overcome with fury. The following day, as soon as he was allowed out onto the prison yard, Jack directly confronted An Rao. He openly questioned An Rao about his reasons for killing Tew Hack. The atmosphere immediately turned extremely tense as inmates gathered around them. Jack made the first move, delivering a powerful punch that instantly knocked down one of An Rao's henchmen as a clear warning. At this moment, prisoners previously bullied by An Rao also stepped forward, siding with Jack. The situation quickly descended into chaos and became nearly uncontrollable. Lee Koa intended to intervene, but the prison warden, observing from afar, prevented him. Both sides stood facing off directly against each other. Jack proposed settling their conflict once and for all through a one-on-one fight against An Rao. Given the circumstances, An Rao had no choice but to accept. Otherwise, he would completely lose face. Yet An Rao was no match for Jack. After only a brief exchange, An Rao was beaten badly by Jack. Finally, Jack used his muscular arm to tightly lock An Rao's neck. Jack was so furious he wanted to kill An Rao immediately. But at that crucial moment, he caught David's gaze from afar. David shook his head silently, advising Jack not to act impulsively. After a moment of hesitation, Jack released An Rao, sparing his life. However, An Rao didn't learn from his mistake. He immediately grabbed a knife thrown by his men and attempted to kill Jack from behind. In this critical moment, David suddenly rushed in, taking the fatal stab intended for Jack. Amidst the ensuing chaos, An Rao was also stabbed to death by inmates who hated him deeply. After the battle, Jack was immediately taken to the prison warden's office. There, the warden tried to use this incident to further accuse Jack and prolong his sentence. The warden insisted that everything was entirely Jack's fault. Jack couldn't accept this injustice and firmly resisted. He boldly confronted the warden, demanding to know why he was repeatedly targeted. At this moment, the warden bluntly admitted he was simply acting according to money received from someone else. If Jack wanted someone to blame, he should blame himself for accidentally killing the wrong person. Hearing this, Jack finally understood the entire truth clearly. He realized all the misery he had endured was orchestrated by the father of the wealthy young man he had unintentionally killed. Without hesitation, Jack pulled out a hidden phone from his waistband, which had been recording the entire conversation, and said to someone on the other end of the call that they could enter now. Immediately afterward, the new prison guard appeared, accompanied by a group of prosecutors entering the office. They arrested the warden along with Lee Koa and his loyal henchmen. It turned out Jack had chosen to trust this new guard after all. The film reached its conclusion. David was rushed for emergency treatment in time and survived his injuries. Jack was also soon released from prison. On the day Jack left prison, Mary was waiting eagerly outside. The moment they met, the couple embraced and kissed passionately. As for the warden, due to his crimes of corruption, he was sentenced to imprisonment. Ironically, he ended up serving his sentence at the very prison he once controlled. When he held power, he had been arrogant and cruel, but now he was utterly miserable. Awaiting him was revenge from prisoners he had previously oppressed. Thus, the story came to its end. The movie's title is Prisoner, an action crime film released in 2014. Although the ending appeared happy, it actually carried profound satire about the dark side of modern society. The film included many meaningful and suggestive details, particularly the dialogues between Jack Mary and the daughter of the prison librarian after Jack's release. All of these elements are worthy of reflection. Ultimately, after enduring countless pains and humiliations, Jack successfully uncovered the sinister conspiracy hidden behind bars. Those who once openly tormented him finally faced justice for their crimes. The prison warden, along with his loyal subordinates, was arrested for bribery and prisoner abuse. Jack emerged from prison physically scarred but spiritually liberated. Standing before the cold prison gates, Mary had been waiting patiently and immediately rushed into his embrace. Bathed in the gentle morning sunlight, they held each other tightly, leaving behind all past tragedies. Yet deep inside, Jack knew clearly that darkness still lurked everywhere in the outside world. Although his personal battle had ended, the broader war against evil would never cease. He understood that one day he might need to rise up again and continue the fight for justice.